This video's a little overdue.
A little. In the summer of 2022, we moved from Toronto to Vancouver Island. It took us 7 days to drive across Canada, and since this is a food channel, we thought it might be helpful for us to share our tips for traveling on a road trip as vegans.
Most of our belongings were on a moving truck, so
We packed up our essentials and our most valuable items in our small car,
don't recommend it.
and we hit the road. Our first stop was in Sudbury, Ontario, just over a 4-hour drive, but we didn't get very far before we started getting hungry. So we've been driving for about maybe 20 minutes, and we're having our first snack. Some vegan banana blueberry chocolate chip muffins that my mother made us. Will we miss the traffic in Toronto? No. We made it to Sudbury, and there's quite a few options for plant-based meals here, but we're kind of in between. The breakfast places have closed, the dinner places haven't quite opened. We found one that was open. We had a vegan, it had a whole vegan breakfast menu.
Yeah, had some Beyond sausage, some
home fries.
Beyond cheese, I don't know, vegan cheese.
Vegan cheese. We got some coffee from a really cute place. Oh yeah, and some energy balls.
Like an energy boulder.
And then we had another 3.5 hours to Sault Ste. Marie, where we scored some veggie pizza and spent the night.
And that brings us to our first vegan cross-country road trip tip. What did I say?
Vegan cross-country road trip tip? I don't know, that brings us to our first tip, which is to order more than you need for dinner and pack it up for your lunch the next day. All our hotel rooms had a fridge where we could store our food overnight, and this way we didn't have to worry about trying to find a vegan place to eat for both lunch and dinner. This way we could just pull over at a nice spot, have our lunch, and continue driving.
If we had space for a cooler, we would probably do some things like overnight oats or some
Sandwiches that we could
energy
pack
balls.
and
we did not have room for that because our entire life was in a Corolla, so the cooler was a no-go.
no. But if you have a cooler, space for a cooler, and you can make some of those things that you can take with you on the road, then that can save you from spending that extra money out for dinner. If that's not an option for you, or if you're traveling with other people and you don't want to have a ton of food on you, then ordering more for dinner and taking it on the road with you for lunch will ensure that you have something filling to eat partway through the day. Day 2, we continued on from Sault Ste. Marie through rocky northern Ontario to Thunder Bay.
Thunder Bay.
And that brings us to tip number 2.
Pack as many snacks as possible with an emphasis on protein.
In terms of snacks, I had very high expectations of the snacks that I was going to make for this trip, but I ended up just making a big bag of trail mix. I put chocolate chips in it. In retrospect, it wasn't the best choice because they've gotten a little melty, but melty chocolate chips never hurt anyone. The granola was a way to use up a lot of the nuts and seeds that were in our pantry that we didn't get to finishing before we left Toronto. It's a combination of walnuts, toasted hazelnuts, pumpkin seeds, dried cranberries. There's some candied ginger in here. What else is in here? And the chocolate chips, the melty chocolate chips.
Hazelnuts?
Toasted hazelnuts, I think I said that one.
Pumpkin
It's a
seeds?
good pumpkin seeds. I think I said that too.
I wasn't
Maybe not. Brian's not listening to me. We've been in a car for 2 days and he's tuning me out. And these seaweed snacks are really coming in handy. Get a little iodine in, all the good stuff that comes with seaweed. Some spiced almonds, so a bit of a savory nut snack. Brian just said these should be a recipe. These spiced nuts smell like barbecue chips. They kind of taste like barbecue chips. They could use a bit more spice. I just kind of experimented, and I put some tamari, some Worcestershire sauce, liquid smoke, smoked paprika, garlic powder, and salt, and baked them at 350 for about 10 minutes, I think, and just toasted them a little bit. They're pretty good.
Roasted chickpeas would be a great high-protein snack as well. Why are you laughing?
That was so informative. I liked
This is an
it.
informative video.
We did have to pace ourselves though with those nuts. We didn't eat those whole massive
I think
bags.
we still have some.
Yeah, but it is a great idea to have snacks that are high in protein and healthy fats when you don't always know where you're going to be getting your vegan meals. Like the pizza we had the night before and we had packed for lunch this day, we had a vegetarian pizza without the cheese. So although it had veggies and fiber and it was tasty and filling, it was lacking a predominant protein source.
Just bread and sauce.
You may be missing out on some of the protein that you're used to consuming, so keep that in mind.
And something we didn't do, but we thought would be helpful to others, is maybe pack a protein powder, mix it into your water. That way you're driving, you're drinking your protein,
All your bases are covered. For dinner that night, though,
Greens and vegetables and sprouted lentils and green juice and some roasted chickpea soup.
we are happy. Shout out to Growing Season Eatery. It was delicious. The portion sizes were huge. So if you're traveling through Thunder Bay or if you live there, then check out Growing Season because they were great. And then this brings us to our tip number 3. Google search the city you are traveling in and the word vegan. If you Google the city name and vegan, you'll get suggested the restaurants that do have vegan options. So Growing Season Eatery came up because although they're not exclusively plant-based, they do have plant-based options. But in some other cities, it's helpful because what will come up if there are no predominantly vegan places, it will show you reviews that people have left at different restaurants saying,
Great vegan option.
great vegan options, or we're able to accommodate me as a vegan, or we're able to make this dish vegan.
Or no vegan options. Also helpful.
Yeah, also good to know. Day 3.
Thunder Bay to Winnipeg. We rated our hotel breakfast of some oatmeal, some
Bananas.
bananas, a bunch of fruit.
Tip number 4, right there. Raid your hotel breakfast.
And coffee. Take the coffee.
But be careful, because if you're like me, you're gonna have to pee in like a half hour.
Pulled over a lot.
Book hotel rooms that have a complimentary breakfast and take a little extra. Take some fruit, take those little packets of jam and peanut butter.
Is it a bit of a gray zone tip? Maybe. But I mean, I slept okay at night. An extra banana or an apple or an orange. I don't think that's
An
gonna hurt
oatmeal
anybody.
packet every once in a while. We weren't eating the eggs and the sausage and the bacon and all of that stuff.
I
so.
slept fine.
We took a little detour on day 3 because we were driving through Dryden, Ontario, and my mom was born there. And at this point, it's about 18 hours from where I grew up. So I'd never been to Dryden and was able to hit the points of interest.
Here I am with Max the Moose, and this is Dryden, Ontario. My mom was born here, and she was the first of her siblings born in Canada. My grandparents came from Portugal, and behind me is the house that my grandparents lived in when they bought a house of their own in Dryden. At first, they lived in a little one-room cabin with all of their children, and then they bought this home. It looks completely different now. Apparently, it's been renovated, but same house on the same property. And here I am. Dryden to Winnipeg. Very pretty.
Day 3 also meant big news. We're finally leaving Ontario and making it to Manitoba. So about 20 hours of driving later, we're out of our home province and setting sail.
Coming into Manitoba.
It's day 4. We're at a Hyatt in Winnipeg, and this is the first hotel that has had non-dairy milk on our journey. So I snuck back up to the room to grab some muesli, which I made before we left. You can see. I've never made muesli before, but I kind of just experimented and toasted some oats with coconut and then threw in some other nuts, like there's slivered almonds and pecans in here. I put some cinnamon and a bit of coconut sugar on it, and I think there's some raisins in here as well, and some seeds. So I am sneakily put some muesli in a mug that was in our room, and now I'm gonna take it down and put some almond milk in it and have some muesli for breakfast. And then we're hitting the road for Swift Current, Saskatchewan. Tip number 5 is not so much a food tip, but a low waste tip. Reusable cutlery sets are a great thing to have on hand. And we also try to bring our own reusable containers into restaurants so that we could pack up our leftovers in those and save some of all of the plastic bags and the plastic cutlery and the boxes. And these reusable sets, pretty much anyone that you get has everything you need. It even has chopsticks and a straw. And this reusable kit actually comes from Sea Legacy. Little fun fact, this is the company that Brian works for that brought us to Vancouver Island.
It's a great nonprofit ocean conservation company. I'll post a link below. You can check them out.
Yeah, some of you might be interested in their ocean conservation efforts and following along, so.
And you can check it out.
We're in Pipestone, Manitoba, and having some leftover Chinese food.
Vegan Chinese food.
Vegan Chinese food that we found in Winnipeg. Winnipeg was really cool, definitely a place that we want to go back to and we have some more time. But today we are driving through the prairies. It's nice and quiet.
Yeah, listen.
Sound of birds and trucks.
Oh, they got a Starbucks. Oh.
Tip number 6.
Tip number 6 is to pay special attention to restaurants that offer Asian cuisine. It is much more likely to find delicious plant-based options that are actually naturally plant-based at these restaurants. Sometimes with North American style restaurants, you might find that you're basically ordering side dishes, fries, a salad without the goat cheese and the dressing,
Bread.
a pizza without the toppings that make that pizza $20, a veggie sandwich without any mayo or anything to break up the big mouthful of bread and lettuce. But if you find a Japanese restaurant like the one we found in Swift Current, Saskatchewan, then you'll have a beautiful poke bowl with tofu and
Oh, so good.
And-
There's like edamame.
edamame on the side.
Very tasty.
And at Indian restaurants, you'll find aromatic curries with chickpeas as your protein source. Sometimes with Indian cuisine, it can be a little bit harder to get a dish that doesn't have dairy in the form of dairy butter or yogurt, but it's usually very possible. And in these sort of scenarios, having a little bit of butter on your rice, depending on how strict you are with your diet, might be fine for you. But if your food choices are allergy-based, then these restaurants tend to be much more able to accommodate you. We continue on our journey, and day 5 brings us through the Canadian prairies, which were really beautiful in their vastness of just land and sky.
But this brought us to
Mountains. We spent some time exploring the beautiful town of Banff, Alberta. And Banff is a resort town inside a national park. So if you're traveling this way, it's helpful to know that you do have to pay an entrance fee to get into the town. About $10 an adult. Free parking is really easy to find, and just take some time to walk around the shops and get something to eat. We ate at Nourish Bistro. There's plenty of vegan options, so make a little afternoon of it and soak in some of that scenery.
You could probably make more of an afternoon of it.
You can make quite a while of it. There's some great stuff to do there. Quite a while of it. We were glad that we were well nourished, sharp, and rested for the last 2 hours of our drive, which proved to be very eventful.
There's a bear. Wow.
So, about 100 meters from the British Columbia border, we saw a bear.
On the shoulder, just chomping around and doing his thing. When I was 6, I came to British Columbia and I was obsessed that we were going to get eaten by bears.
When you cross the Alberta-BC border, there's a sign that says no cell service for 100 kilometers. It's like, where are we going? Wait for it.
He's just coming onto the road.
God.
Oh my God.
And in case you didn't get that, I'm gonna rewind it back so you see it again.
But really, the bears were a treat. They were just doing their thing, finding some dinner. This part of the drive was absolutely stunning, but it is worth noting that we did see quite a bit of damage from forest fires as well, which of course displaces animals and endangers them and human beings. There's always a little bit more that all of us can do to be part of the solution, so this was a very real reminder.
Day 6, our last big day of driving, takes us all the way through British Columbia. Let's see if it's as eventful as last night's entrance to British Columbia.
So it turns out we don't have much footage from this day because we encountered pretty heavy rain. It required pretty focused driving through all of the twisty, turny, mountainous roads.
Heading to the ferry, Brian.
Our final bit of the journey was to take the 2-hour ferry from mainland British Columbia across to Vancouver Island to our new home.
Fun fact.
Yeah, we met on a ferry. And here we are traveling to our new home on a ferry. We met on the ferry to Toronto Island, which is a little passenger ferry. This ferry's a little bigger and takes you and your vehicle on a really beautiful trip for nearly 2 hours across the Strait of Georgia.
Pretty windy though.
It was very windy.
Like,
Kind of fun though, because it was so windy.
it was an adventure.
We were on a hike. We'd been in a car for a long time. And it does cost about $100 Canadian to go across with a small vehicle. So it's not a trip that we make often, but living on Vancouver Island, we have everything that we need here. So going to the mainland isn't really needed other than for tourism purposes. Thanks for following along with our journey across Canada. And we hope that those 6 tips will help you enjoy and access more plant-based options options on your next road trip. And if you've enjoyed this style of video from us and want to learn more about what it's like to live on Vancouver Island or what the vegan food scene is like here, then leave us a comment down below. We love when you subscribe, when you like and share our videos, and especially when we hear from you. We have a delicious and easy lentil vegetable soup recipe video coming up next week, and then some more travel content from our recent trip to Portugal.
See you next week on TTT.
I just finished my matcha. That was a good timing. I should always cook from the couch. What recipes could I bring to you from the couch? It's a little more comfortable. What food can you make on a couch?
That could be a video.
It could be a playlist series.
Food you can make sitting down.
Tasty, thrifty, timely, and lazy.